Welcome to Design Domination, where you'll learn to become a better, more business-savvy designer so you can dominate your competition. Hi, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Colleen Grotzer, and in this episode of Design Domination, I'm giving you my top 21 InDesign and PDF accessibility tools for making accessible PDFs. Accessible PDFs benefit individuals with a visual impairment or motor disability, for example, and they're screen reader friendly. So stick around to find out how these accessibility tools can help you make PDFs more accessible. The first group of accessibility tools I want to talk about is color contrast apps. Now, there are a ton of color contrast checking tools out there. And most of them work the same way in that you input a color code and then see if the colors pass or fail. And then they usually let you lighten or darken the colors or adjust brightness to help you get a color combination that meets the contrast requirements. And you can usually switch the foreground and background colors, although that really doesn't matter. Some of these are in the form of an app, some are a script, and they might be a website. And some also have some features that others don't have. The first one, and these are not in any particular order, the first one is the TGPI Color Contrast Analyzer. And if you go look that up online, use the British spelling for color and analyzer. What I like about this is that it's extremely versatile. It allows you to input hexadecimal codes, which are those 6-digit codes, or RGB values. So if you know the hexadecimal code or the RGB values for the colors that you want to check, you can just use those. I also like that you can sample color with it from anywhere on your screen. So it's really easy to sample an area in a photo or on a website or in another program. And I also use it to sample colors that are in gradations or a tint of a color. Now, number 2 is the WebAim contrast checker. And this one gives an explanation of the WCAG contrast guidelines right below the checker. And it also has a permalink option, which I like, and you just select and then copy and paste that URL. This comes in handy if you want to send somebody proof that a color combination passes or fails. And I've also used it to save the URLs to my project folder so that I can tell that I've already checked certain color combinations in a document already or on a website. Now, one thing it doesn't do that some of the other checkers do is allow you to use RGB values. And that may or may not matter to you. Number 3 is the WebAim link contrast checker, which is actually a separate contrast checker from the one I was just talking about. And now, if you're ever styling hyperlinks with color and not any additional styling, such as an underline, which I don't recommend, by the way, then you can use this to make sure that the color of the hyperlinked text has enough contrast between the body text color and also the background. Number 4 is Adobe Color. Now, you just go to color.adobe.com, and for the contrast checker, go to the Accessibility Tools option. In addition to checking contrast, Adobe Color will also give you options for accessible color combinations, like over on the right-hand side. And it also has, and some of you may or may not like any of those, you just want to go in and adjust the colors as needed, but they also have a colorblind save option that detects color conflicts for individuals with color blindness. Number 5 is the Color Contrast Validator. Now, a lot of times you'll need to check multiple color combinations in a single document, and this can be a really tedious task if you have a lot of colors or tints of colors used in the document. And if you're using InDesign, then instead of checking every single color combination individually, you can just use my friend Dax Castro's InDesign script, this color contrast validator. This is a huge time saver because it checks color combinations in bulk, like all at once, at the click of a button, and then it assesses all the colors in your document. And then what it does is it labels each color combination as passing or failing at the AA or AAA level, and then if it should be used only for large text or not. And you can choose to run it to compare 2 colors of your choice, and then it will show you tints of the colors in 10% increments. This next group of tools is Colorblindness Simulators. Number 6 is Simdaltinism. This is available as a mobile app, and it's also a Mac program that you can download. And when you open it, it shows a window frame that you can move anywhere on your screen, no matter what program you're using, whether that's InDesign, Photoshop, Illustrator, or something else. And then you simply select from the menu or use the keyboard shortcuts in the menu to view that whatever you're looking at within the frame in various types of color blindness. Number 7 is the Colorblindness Simulator, which is a website where you can upload an image and then see how it looks to people with different types of color blindness. Once you upload the image, it'll give you a whole bunch of options to view that same image as individuals with different types of color blindness would see it. They also have an app called Colorblind Check that you can download. Now, I also want to let you know that Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop have some color blindness options, but they don't have as many options, so I'll give them an honorable mention. If you want to check those out, in either one of those programs, they are found under the View menu and then Proof Setup. And then there's 2 options there. I'm really excited about this next set of tools, which make working with alt text so much easier. And these are both also from my friend Dax Castro, and they are InDesign scripts. One is called the Alt Text Extractor, and the other is the Alt Text Automator. And these are particularly helpful when you have a large document with a lot of images. And what they do is they work in tandem with one another and in one fell swoop. The Alt Text Extractor script will extract the alt text, whether it's filled in or empty, and then it will export it to a file, which is a TXT file, a tab delimited text file, and then you open that up in a spreadsheet program, such as Excel. This is actually a database file, and it contains the file name of each image, its alt text, and the page number that it appears on. Now, this is useful in several ways. First is that it helps you spot images that you might need to add alt text to that you haven't yet. So you can double check any that have no alt text to make sure that they were artifacted or to see if they need to have alt text. And then second, instead of asking the client or your coworker in an email or with sticky notes in a PDF, to have them write or review alt text that you might have written, this just puts everything into a single spreadsheet. So you don't have to go and put sticky notes in the PDF or copy and paste the alt text, or tell them they got to hover over every image in the PDF. So this makes it so much easier for them to review and modify that alt text. But it also helps if the alt text needs to be translated into another language. Now, this is a huge bonus and time saver. I once worked on some InDesign files that were in English, Spanish, and Arabic, and they had quite a few images. And all I had to do was run this script and then send the client the file with the exported alt text in English. And then what they did was they sent it to a translator who added a column for each language in the spreadsheet and then sent it back to me. Now, once you've extracted that alt text, you can use the Alt Text Automator script to re-import the edited alt text back into InDesign. So after you've made any changes to that file, whether you're modifying the alt text or you're removing alt text, where needed, all you have to do is save that file that the extractor originally exported. Now, just note that you can't import that originally extracted file with any additional columns or anything else. It needs to retain the same structure. So if you do add another column or two, like I was talking about for an additional language, just manually copy and paste that information. But then you want to remove that added column before you import it back to InDesign. And then you just run the script. Okay, now let's talk tools for making tables accessible. Oh my goodness, tables can be so much work, as you know, especially if you have hundreds of tables in a single document. So for help with tables, there's actually a few tools that can help. Number 10 is Turbo Table Headings. This is an InDesign script, and this is also from Dax. And actually, maybe I should make this clear. I don't get a dime from talking about his scripts. They're just really good, and he's brilliant for coming up with them because he's solving problems that we have in InDesign in the accessibility process. But anyway, this script converts the first row of every table to a header row. And if you've ever scoped tables, I'm sure you're doing a happy dance right now. Because as someone who's had to scope hundreds of tables in a single document, I can personally attest to the fact that it will save you time and it will also save your wrist. I work on an accessible annual report every year that has at least 300 tables in it. It might have 400 tables in it. And this script not only helps my wrist, but it saves a ton of time. But I can't overlook the other benefit. What if you get files from another designer? You could spend hours going to every single table and checking to see if they already converted every first row in a table to a header row, and then selecting and right-clicking each header row and converting them all to header rows. Or you could just run this script. You just want to be sure to check your document for any tables that shouldn't have a header row of column headers, which is rare, but it's possible. Number 11 is PDF Go HTML. Now, this is another tool that's useful for checking tables, and this is an Acrobat plugin made by Callis. You might be remediating a PDF in Acrobat or dealing with a malaligned table in a PDF, always fun. And then, it's hard to figure out sometimes exactly where that error is. So after installing this tool, you can just run it through Acrobat by going to the plugins menu. And then all you have to do is open a tagged PDF and go to the Callis option there in the menu. It brings up a lot of options, and one of them is called structure tags. And this will show you the tags used in the document, including the table structure. It will also show you headings and paragraphs and lists and other things, but you can review this to see where the table error might be, because a header cell somewhere wasn't set to scope enough rows or columns. You'll usually find it hanging off to the side somewhere. Number 12 is Axs PDF. This really can help you more easily scope certain types of tables. And I recently used this for a project where I had a lot of tables with only column headers, no row headers, and then multiple column headers. And it allows you to do this by simply clicking and then selecting table headers that you want to apply to certain table cells rather than having to manually assign them. So it gives you a more visual way to do this than the way Acrobat does. And there's a ton more that Axs PDF can do, but this is mostly what I've used it for. Number 13 is the Check Document for Accessibility script. Now, this is an InDesign script that was developed by Keith Gilbert in collaboration with Chad Chelius. This just came out, and I've briefly tried it, and I find it really useful. It checks your InDesign file for various accessibility issues, like you might have a missing document title, and a dialog box will come up that prompts you to enter that title in. And the other thing it does is it maps paragraph styles to PDF tags based on their names. And it also looks for images with missing alt text. It removes alt text from an image that's marked as an artifact, and it marks any image with the word artifact in the file name as an artifact as well. Now, during the accessible document layout or document remediation process, you'll need an accessible PDF checker. You might be surprised to hear me speak about this next one because I've talked in the past about how you cannot rely on it to test the full accessibility of PDFs, and you can't. But number 14 is Adobe Acrobat. You can use the Acrobat Accessibility Checker as a first step in your testing process. And you can just go in and assess what it finds. Okay, because automated checkers are only going to find so many issues, and that might be like maybe 25% to 30% of them. And sometimes you're going to get false positives too. What you can do is use this checker to check your reading order, the tag order, and several other issues. And then you can go back to InDesign, or whatever your source file is, and fix the issues and re-export and recheck in Acrobat. You can also use Acrobat for its pre-flight fix-ups to fix some of the accessibility errors that the pack checker finds. And also to add the PDF UA identifier. Number 15 on my list is Pack 2021. And by the way, these are all just in the order that I would use them in the accessible design or remediation process. Pack 3, which is now Pack 2021, is a free checker that tests a PDF against the PDF UA standard and also against WCAG. This is a much more comprehensive checker than the Acrobat Accessibility Checker. Even if you get your document as perfect as possible in InDesign, you're going to find that you get the same 3 or 4 or so errors in Pack 2021. And then what you can do is run some of Acrobat's pre-flight fix-ups to then get those green check marks in Pack 2021. Pack shows you where each individual error appears on the page, and it also offers a screen reader preview, which is similar to how Callis's PDF Go HTML shows the document structure and the tags. And you can also download a report to show that the document passed. Of course, now with any checker, it can't check for things that need to be manually checked. So just keep in mind that passing any checker does not mean the document is, fully accessible or that it's even user-friendly. Number 16 is a screen reader. It's so important to also check your documents with a screen reader. And you could even just do spot checking. The three most popular screen readers are NVDA and JAWS for Windows, and then VoiceOver for the Mac. I work on a Mac, but I didn't even try to mess with VoiceOver with documents. I run Windows on my Mac with the help of Parallels, and then I spot check PDFs with NVDA most of the time and sometimes JAWS. The next category I've got is PDF errors and troubleshooting. Number 17 is tagged PDF. When you go to check your PDFs for accessibility, you're going to come across an issue at some point that you might not be sure how to fix. And Kenny Moore's tagged PDF website and YouTube channel are super comprehensive resources. All you have to do is look up that specific pack checker error on his site, and he explains the error and shows a video of it. Number 18 is the PDF Accessibility Facebook group. If you want to get more support with PDF accessibility, this Facebook group is run by my accessibility colleague and friend Dax Castro. The group members are from all kinds of levels, ranging from beginner to expert, and they are so happy to help you out when you have a question. And they also come from a diverse background of document accessibility, because not everyone works in InDesign. Some work in Microsoft Word or Excel or PowerPoint, and some people focus on remediating existing PDFs and not working with source files. So those are the tools and resources that I use, but there are also other tools worth mentioning. And number 19 is Made to Tag. This is an InDesign plugin, and InDesign already allows you to tag content, obviously, but Made to Tag gives you a step-by-step process for some of the workflow before you go and export to PDF. Now, I don't use this, like I said, because I'm already using a huge detailed checklist like this big. But even if you already have a process, Made to Tag could make table scoping a little easier because that's so much fun. It expands on what InDesign can do, so you might consider it for that reason. Number 20 is the Commonlook PDF Validator. Now, this is a free Acrobat plugin that verifies and validates PDFs. And then 21 is Commonlook PDF, which is actually a paid tool that helps you remediate documents within Acrobat. So there you have it. Those are my top 21 InDesign and PDF accessibility tools. But if you need someone to make your InDesign files accessible, or if you're already doing that kind of work and you need help with specific issues and you want a private consultation, get in touch with me and I'd be happy to help you. And if you want to learn more about InDesign and PDF accessibility and even document accessibility in general, join me, Dax Castro, Chad Chelius, and others at the Creative Pro Design and Accessibility Summit from November 16th through 19th. And if you use code CPNCG, you'll get $100 off any multi-day event pass. And if you're interested in learning about accessible design in general, I offer courses on accessible design. One is accessible branding and design, and the other is website accessibility. Just go to creative-boost.com/courses.